Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another podcast. So last weekend we have three wide releases. We have the Wreck-It Ralph sequel, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and then we have another sequel, Creed 2, and then Robin Hood. Let's see how those movies did at the box office. Okay, let's jump right in. Coming in at number one is Ralph Breaks the Internet. It is the sequel to 2012 Wreck-It Ralph. In this new one, Ralph and his fellow neighbor went on, on the internet to look for a spare part to fix an arcade machine, right? I said the movie could probably open to like 50 million 3 days and 60 million 5 days. I mean, all the new releases was released on a Wednesday because, hey, Thanksgiving was on a Thursday. So they released the studios released it on a Wednesday, so they can have an extended, you could say, holiday weekend. 50 million 3 days and 60 million 5 days. I was kind of right on there for the 3 day figure for Wreck-It Ralph. The movie pulled in 55.7 million for 3 days, the 3 day weekend, but for 5 days it actually did way better. It actually pulled in at about 84.4 million. So 5 days I was off on, but like for 3 days I was kind of right there, only like 5 million off or so. The first movie opened to about 49 million, and then it went on to make 189 million domestic and 471 million worldwide. And I said this movie could do better, the sequel could do better because of how well reviewed it is, how well liked it is. So I baked that number in, like 50 million. I gave it a bump, and I lowered the figure a bit because, hey, it is Thanksgiving. And there are Thanksgiving activities like family gatherings, traveling, shopping even. So I adjusted the numbers lower for all the new releases, and it's kind of right there. The number for 3 days is right there, but 5 days I was kind of off. This movie proved to be more popular than I expected, maybe because of this is a sequel to a beloved movie, right? And it targets the family audience, and family usually, what do they do during the holidays? They get together and they go shopping, and they go watch the movie. Maybe like they could place the kids off on in a movie like Ralph Breaks the Internet, and the adults can go shopping or what have you. They can watch it together and then go shopping. So there you go. All right, let's move on to number two, which is Creed 2. It put in about 35.3 million 3 days, and for 5 days it did 55.9 million. So this movie did better than my projections. I said the movie could probably open to 50 million 3 days and 20 million 5 days. So off there, I didn't expect this movie, even though the first movie did well, right? I kind of lowered that number a bit because it's the holiday season, like Thanksgiving, and because there are so many big movies out, mainly Ralph Breaks the Internet, then we have Fantastic Beasts, and then Bohemian Rhapsody is still in theaters, then The Grinch is doing well, really well too. So I lowered the number a bit, and surprising to me, the movie did way better than that. It's actually well reviewed too, 81% on Rotten Tomatoes and A Cinema score. So I expect this movie, the second weekend for this movie, to have a lowest drop off, maybe around 40% or so. I wouldn't be surprised if the second weekend experience a drop off in the 30. All right, let's move on to number three, which is Dr. Seuss's The Grinch. It pulled in 30.2 million in its third weekend. Drop off is about 2% from the previous weekend. Domestic gross is 180 million thus far, and let's see, worldwide it is at 216 million. So this remake, sort of the new animated remake, is proved to be a hit, especially in this holiday season, and it's facing competition from Ralph Breaks the Internet as well, because it target the same demographic. And number four, it is Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald. It dropped about 52% to pull in about 29.7 million in the second weekend. Domestic gross is 117 million, and let's see, worldwide it is at 439 with 322 million from overseas. Okay, moving along is number five, Bohemian Rhapsody. Rhapsody. It pulled in about 13.9 million in its fourth weekend. Lowish drop off is about 13% or 14% from the previous weekend, and domestic gross is 152 million. And let's see, the worldwide take is 472 with 320 million of that from overseas. Okay, number 6 is Mark Wahlberg's comedy Instant Family. It pulled in 12.5 million in the second weekend. Drop off is about 14% from the previous weekend. Domestic gross is about 36 million. And number 7 is one of the new releases last weekend, Robin Hood. This is a movie that I said could probably open somewhere in the 15 million for 3 days and 20 million for 5 days, except that it didn't reach that number. What did it do? It pulled in about 9.1 million 3 days, and for 5 days 14 million. So kind of underperforming there. I thought this could be like a more action-packed kind of spin-off in a way for the like the Kingsman movies. The actor, the lead, is Taron Egerton. He did the Kingsman movies, and as you can see, he carried that attitude over to Robin Hood. Except for this movie, I guess people didn't want to see another Robin Hood movie, especially with Taron Egerton in it. It pulled in 9.1 million. Not good. I don't know what the budget for this movie is, but it might be somewhere in the 40 to 50 million range, judging by the look, right? But a 9 million opening for 3 days or 14 million for 5 days is not a good start for Robin Hood. All right, number 8 is Widows. It pulled in about 18 million. In the second weekend. Drop off is about 36% from the previous weekend, and domestic gross is about 26 million so far. The budget is 42 million, so it looks like it might have some difficulty surpassing its budget. It might get close. When it's all said and done, it might close out somewhere in the 40 million to 45 million range, maybe, if you get lucky. Okay, number 9 is Green Book. It is the movie directed by Peter Farrelly, starring Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali. It's about a bouncer who's driving this black pianist through the Deep South, and the Deep South, there's a lot of racial tension there. And this is based on a true story, right? I pulled in about 5.4 million in second week of expansion. It added, like 1,000 additional theaters, and domestic gross right now is 7.8 million. Okay, closing out the top 10 is A Star Is Born. It pulled in 3 million in its 8th weekend. Drop off is about 30% from the previous weekend, and domestic gross is 191 million. And worldwide it is at 354 million, and the budget is only 36 million. So this is a huge success for Warner Brothers. Okay, that's it for the top 10. Let's move on to the wide releases this weekend. We're gonna only have one, which is the horror movie Possession of Hannah Grace. So about the movie stars Shay Mitchell, who was in the Pretty Little Liar TV series. She stars as a morgue worker named Megan Reed, who's doing night shift. Right, and one of the corpses that happens to pass through the morgue is of said Hannah Grace. Right, she supposedly is dead, and she's there because of a failed exorcism. And from the trailers say that once the exorcism failed, the host died, the ghost that's in possession of the body will find a new host. Hence comes income Megan Reed, right? So she is supposedly the new host, right? And she's trapped in this morgue, morgue with lots of bodies and lots of scary stuff, imagery going on. So how will the Possession of Hannah Grace do at the box office of this weekend? I expect the numbers to be low for this movie because Shay Mitchell is not that big of a draw yet, and I'm not sure if a horror movie is what people look for during the holiday season. So I'm thinking the movie could probably open somewhere in the 10 million range, and if it captures the people's imaginations, interests, I think it could open higher, maybe to 15, but I'm going with the lower end of that, so about 10 million opening for Possession of Hannah Grace. All right, that's it for this week's podcast. Tune in next week to see how I did. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.